everyone, this is Jotto and welcome to Versus Series, where a player from my team, Acebreakers, plays against a well-known or up-and-coming pro player. Now, for this week, we have from Acebreakers, Fire, who will be playing against Jirachie from Gamers Connect. Now, Gamers Connect is fairly recent. They've been doing a lot of tournaments recently that you guys may or may not have taken part in. But they also have a professional team, and they are going to Assembly actually as their first sort of major tournament that they're going to, which either has just happened or is happening soon. And Jirachie is actually Tom Ross from Pokemon TCG, who was the 2007 Pokemon TCG champion, world champion. So he's come over to Hearthstone along with a lot of his testing partners, and they're very, very good at Hearthstone. I'm really hoping they give us a couple of good games for this particular episode. So anyway, moving on to the actual decks, and yes, we do not have actual pictures for Jirachie, which is a little irritating, but we'll make do. So, first things first, from Fire, we have a Druid deck. Now, keep in mind, this is post first wing of Naxxramas, post Arachnid Quarter. So, we've got one Poison Seed is the only Naxxramas card by the looks of it. This Poison Seed is generally used to defeat control decks. So, in this particular situation, it'd be good against Handlock if he gets it against Handlock when he plays against it. In this matchup, he's playing against Shaman, which is actually when Poison Seed is at its worst. So, we probably won't see Poison Seed doing that much work in this particular game. The rest of the deck, however, is a very interesting blend. There is a 1 Starfall in there to go with the Poison Seed and just to be better against Zoo. 1 Senjin instead of a Violet Teacher. Got the singular Argent Commander, Cairn Black Knight. It's a very, very versatile Druid deck. It's sacrificing consistency for versatility. There's a lot of one-offs in this deck compared to normal Druid lists. It's very interesting. Now, as for the actual Shaman list, which Jirachie is starting with, Shaman is usually a deck which is incredibly similar to every other Shaman build. There's not many differences you can make. So if we look at the interesting things about this deck, it's a pretty standard Shaman list. Although there's 1 teacher in there, that's interesting. You've got the 1 teacher, got the 1 Nerubian egg, no creepers, just the 1 egg as the Naxxramas additions. We also have the 1 teacher, as I said, very, very unusual to have 1 of each of those. Generally, you either don't have any or you go full way. But besides that, we've got the standard Black Knight, Alakir, Doomhammer. The double Manatide is the other interesting thing about this deck. Double Manatide is very unusual. Most of the time, they only play 1. Double Manatide does mean that the deck is more consistent, but it also means it's slightly less powerful because it's a tempo loss. So anyway, keeping that in mind, we'll go on to the mulligans. Now we've got Fire on top, Jirachie at the bottom. Now, with Fire, I think going second, I would probably mulligan everything apart from the Harvest Golem, because you want to coin Harvest instead of Wrathing on turn 2. As far as Jirachie is concerned, he's against Druid, so keeping the Hex is fine, and the Feral Spirits is an absolute keep. I would actually keep the Hex just in case of Innervate nonsense. So we'll see what he ends up going with. He's actually going to send back the Feral. Interesting. Yeah, there is a little bit of a problem with Jirachie's hand at the bottom there. There's not much I can do about it, but you can still see all the cards in there. Now, we do have a turn 1 Senjin coming out of Fire here. It's not quite a turn 1 Yeti, but turn 1 Senjin is still very, very scary. This will deal with any totems, and it's just going to be a pain in the neck in general. Keeping in mind that we're just going to see Atomic Coal, usually on turn 2, unless there's a Nerubian egg in his hand. So, the first couple turns of Shaman are usually pretty simple. Now, I should imagine he's going to Hex this. There's not really anything else he can do. I should imagine we are going to see the Hex come out here, and then that clears the way for a Manatide if he needs to. Hexing Ascension is not always the best thing you want to be doing, but sometimes you have to. Now, from Fire here, we do have the Harvest Golem as a perfect turn 3. The Azure Drake will be useful slightly later on. Very, very good to draw through. Keep in mind this is pre-Loatheb, so there won't be any Loathebs in these decks. But as for Jirachie, this is a very, very interesting turn. You can Totem up, you can Manatide, you could Earthshock the 2-3. I think because of your next turn, which is Azure Drake, you actually want to Manatide. just in case. So basically, the reason you want a Mana Tide is he wants to kill the Mana Tide, and you want to stop him from playing a Yeti. If you play Mana Tide and he plays Yeti, you get 2 draws out of your Mana Tide, because he can't kill it immediately. But then, if you don't play Mana Tide, he just kills your totem with his 2/3 and then plays the Yeti. And if he has to hero power the Mana Tide, it means he doesn't have 4 mana, which is actually a fairly big deal. So I think playing the Mana Tide here is correct, but it's a bit of a difficult play. As yeah, he's coming to the same conclusion by the looks of it. He's thinking about it, but he looks like he came to the same conclusion. Yeah, so we're going to see the Mana Tide. Oh, and the Earth Shock. Interesting. Very interesting. I guess that's because he can Fire Elemental in 2 turns. That's interesting. Alright, so we're going to see the Keeper to silence, or damage. I think actually he should have damaged. That's actually a bit of a mistake. He should have killed the Mana Tide because Flame Tongue Totem is actually, and Defender of Argus are quite important in this matchup. So 2 damage is not that important, whereas if you just kill the Mana Tide for free, essentially you can use the Keeper ability on it and attack it with the 2/2, then he doesn't have it on the board, and that might actually come up a bit later. The draw here is interesting. I think you actually go for the Azure Drake and then kill the Mana Tide. The Mana Tide should have died last turn, so this is going to bite him a bit. But I think you should play the Azure Drake because you're going to play Cairn next turn anyway, so you want to sort of force him to make some trades, clear his board. Alright, so we could see a Storm here. I think an interesting way of looking at it would be Blood Mage Storm. In fact, Blood Mage Storm would be 4 damage Storm. So if you Blood Mage Storm, you wipe the entire board. You could also go Fire Elemental, because if you go Blood Mage Storm this turn, then you can't go it next turn. And if you play Fire Elemental, you could kill the 4/4s into each other. I think this is correct though. You keep your board. He kind of telegraphed he doesn't have swipe last turn by playing the Azure Drake. It turns out he does. However, you don't have to play around swipe if he doesn't do it that turn. The chances of him having it are pretty slim. Now we're going to see the Cairn come out here. This is why I didn't really like the Earth Shock earlier, because you can't deal with a Cairn now. It's not just Cairn though. Ancient of War is something else. We could have seen an Ancient of War you wouldn't have been able to deal with. But now we should just see the Windmill Slam on the Cairn, I would say. You've already seen a Hex, you've already seen an Earth Shock. This Cairn is going to be pretty crazy. He's debating the swipe. I think not playing Cairn here would be a mistake. We've already seen 2 of the 4 ways he has of actually killing a Cairn efficiently. So the Cairn just signals close to the end of the game. If he slams this Cairn now, it's just going to kill way too much stuff to come back from. It's really thinking about this. I mean, you could. There is also a argument for swipe, but then you're not really being proactive. You're being defensive, whereas Cairn is proactive. And next turn you can go Azure Drake Innervate swipe anyway. Alright, so for this turn, we have a bit of a problem for Jirachie here. I think we're probably going to see the Defender of Argus. The Defender of Argus will allow... I think you could actually go Defender and Rockbiter and just kill it, but that's a lot of resources. However, actually it would end up... You would be left with a 5/1 and a 2/3, and you draw a card of the Blood Mage. So I actually think Defender and then Rockbiter, the Blood Mage, to kill the Cairn entirely is correct. It feels really, really wrong, but it's actually correct. And before anyone mentions Overload, he has 5 mana. I'm not making that mistake 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, I think investing into killing this is actually the correct play. You need to get this off the board. This Cairn is going to destroy you. We see the turn timer messing with them a little bit here. Yeah, the turn timer is a little annoying. I really do despise the thing, personally. Okay, so he's going face. He's going to get blown out this turn, though. The Azure Drake swipe is game ending practically. I think it was a mistake not killing that Karen. I've made that mistake before. It's quite brutal. Sometimes you have the option to kill a Karen inefficiently and you don't, and then the Karen kills you. That's why Karen is a good card in a lot of situations. They don't have a easy way of dealing with it, like a silence. It's just too much value for a 6-drop. The problem is when they do have a way of dealing with it, like they have silence or hex or something, then it's a big tempo loss. Now, an interesting situation here for Jirachie. He's got sort of a situation where he doesn't really have a way to answer this board. He could Fire Elemental and Totem, or Fire Elemental and Egg, I think. He's going to go for the Fire Elemental Totem. I think Fire Elemental Egg is a little better because you have Flame Tongue in your hand. But either way, it's a 0-2. Yeah, I think Fire Elemental Egg is a little better because it might encourage him to use a Keeper on it, which is something smaller than normal. We're going to see, I would say, we could see Wrath to draw. You really want to play Ancient Allure here, but you really can't. So I think we're going to see Wrath to draw. See what he gets. This is really annoying, because if he had one more mana, he's actually going to Wrath to deal damage. He's going to Hero Power this? This is risky. This is very risky. Shaman can actually do a lot of damage. They can do a lot of damage in one turn, and he has 9 mana right now. Yeah, this is extremely risky play by Fire here. There actually could be a Alakir top deck next turn, and he would win if he had that. That's incredibly risky. I should imagine next turn we are going to see the taunt though from the Druidal Claw. But it's just unnecessary risk. I think drawing off the Wrath, trading the Drake, and then playing either Druidal Claw or whatever you drew is probably better. Just because it's less risky. You're so far ahead right now, you got Ancient Allure in your hand as well. You don't need to conserve board advantage. Especially considering the Harvest Golem would be 4-6 instead of a 2-3. So you actually still have a similar size board. The only difference is that you take, well, 6 damage here because the Hero Power doesn't heal you. So technically 5 because you wouldn't Hero Power either way. You wouldn't Hero Power in the case of the Druidal Claw play. So technically it's 5 extra damage. Yeah, Jirachie's really going for that Alakir win. Which I would be extremely scared about. Alakir is just lethal right now. That's 18 damage. Yeah, we're going to see a board clear and a Druidal Claw in the bear form. Yeah, that makes perfect sense because Alakir would just be lethal. If we see a top deck Alakir here, then he's going to be kicking himself. Now we got double Unbound Feral. I mean, you could double Rockbiter. That's just awkward. I think we're going to see double Unbound Feral. Although I don't really see a way back from... I don't really see a way back from Jirachie. And this is exactly what I meant by the Karen, by the way. This Karen has been on the board since turn... What was it, 6? I think he played it on turn 6? 6 or 7. So it's just been killing things over and over and over again. And that's what Karen does if you don't kill it. If you kill it inefficiently, then yes, it's a 2 or a 3 for 1. But if you don't kill it, then it can be a 4 or 5 for 1 because you get selective trading from the player who actually played the Karen. He's just making sure he doesn't have lethal here. As we got, what, 6, 10. No, he can't get rid of some of the stuff on his board. That's why he doesn't have. That's why it's not even a calculation because he can't get rid of something on his board. So he's only going to summon 2 trees. Although I'm pretty sure even if he had 3, it wouldn't work. Yeah, he's a bit too far off. We're just going to see Ancient of... I think we're actually going to see Ancient of Heal here. Actually, no, we're going to see Wild Growth and then Ancient of Draw. If you're drawing, you should definitely play Wild Growth first. There aren't that many 3-mana spells you're even thinking of drawing here. In fact, there really aren't any 3-mana spells you're thinking of drawing here. Maybe Wrath. Maybe. But that's about it. I think Wild Growth there first. Especially because we're going to see wild growth here anyway. Maybe actually we could see a hero power. And then complete clear. I think if you're going to go this way, then you should be complete clearing with hero power. No, we shouldn't see the wild growth. Alright, that was a sequencing mistake. I think if you're going to go for the board clear, you should just go all in on the board clear, because you actually can get blown out severely by lightning storm right now. Lightning storm would signal close to the end for fire, because he didn't kill the unbound. I think, yeah, lightning storm top deck would have been really bad there. Anyway, so we have got the feral. I think we're just gonna see feral totem up. We're definitely gonna see double rock biter to kill that claw. That just has to happen now. And flame tongue. He has enough mana. Yeah, we're gonna see the double. I mean, he could just run both into the. He could run like the unbound in there and then just not use rock biters. I think he's gonna use one rock biter to kill the lure. Actually, no, killing the Azure Drake is better because of swipe. Yeah, the problem is these rock biters are sitting in his hand doing nothing at the moment. I don't think the burst is really gonna come into this, as we just see lethal. Yeah, I think he should have killed something else with a rock biter. Would it have even mattered? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't have even mattered, but it's still something to think about. So anyway. First game, Druid versus Shaman is usually a very, very weird matchup. It generally depends on tempo a lot. Usually it's Ancient Allure that wins the game for the Druid player. In this case, not so much. It was the Cairn that did it. I do think that there were a couple mistakes in the game. As I said, mistakes happen all the time. That's one of the reasons why I make these videos, is to point out sort of errors that you don't make. It's really to point out errors which even the best people make errors. So it's a good thing to learn from them. And in this particular case, I think the real swinging turn was the choice to go face instead of killing the Cairn. I think that was the major swinging turn, where if he killed the Cairn, he still would have lost his whole board to the swipe. However, he wouldn't have lost his whole board without actually killing the Cairn, which is what really did him in. So I think that would have changed the game dramatically. And I'm not sure if he would have won in the end, but the Cairn definitely did a lot of work, so that was sort of the point of no return as far as that game was concerned. So anyway, the deck change coming out of Jirachie here is to Handlock. Now, Handlock is very, very good against Druid, the slower variations of Druid, keep in mind. Against the faster ones, it can be a little sketchy, but from what he's seen Sen'jin, he's seen Cairn. There actually could be a slower variation. So you might... Handlock, I think, against this particular version of Druid is probably about 50-50, because you are playing the Sen'jins, not the teachers, and you're not playing Power of the Wild combos and things like that. You can't put as much pressure on. But you can definitely still lose against this Druid deck, because it is a little faster than the prediction. As I said, keep in mind he saw Cairn, Sen'jin, so as a prediction it might be a slower one. So it's very, very interesting that he's actually gone for this this prediction. Now, this particular Handlock deck is quite interesting. We do have the one of Ironbeak Owl. We've got the one BGH for the mirror match. We do have one Defender of Argus. That's a very, very interesting change. We've got one Defender, the double Sunwalker, one Ragnaros. It's a very, very teched up list. Now, from what I can tell, there aren't any Naxxramas cards in here. Some people are running the Egg in the Handlock, but not all of them. So it's a very, very interesting list. The main differences to normal are the Ragnaros, which some people do play, but are the Ragnaros, the Sunwalkers are not mandatory, and also one Defender instead of two. There's a couple interesting teched out things here. The double Shadow Flame, one Hellfire instead of two Hellfire, one Shadow Flame. It's not really which one's more common, it's sort of just debated which one is better in terms of combinations. So it's interesting that he's gone for that particular mix-up. So anyway, keeping that in mind, we will go on to the mulligans for the second game. So opening hand for Jirachie, we've got pretty simple, keep the 4-drop. Now for fire, again, pretty simple, keep the wild growth. You don't want any of that other stuff, just keep the wild growth. You could go for the turn 3, no, it's just too risky. So mulliganing everything there. Basically, you could go for the turn 3 Ancient Allure, but then if you go for the turn 3 Ancient Allure, then you just don't do anything for the first couple turns, which you need to against Handlock. You need to put pressure on. Now, this particular hand from Fire is a mix of good and terrible. It's very, very good against the turn 4. It's very, very good against turn 4 Twilight Drake, though, because he can go. I think he's gonna have enough mana. Yeah, he's gonna have enough mana to go Keeper, Coin, Wrath to kill a Drake. So he's just hoping for no. Actually, we're gonna see Coin Azure here, although this is a little risky. It's better against Giant, worse against Drake. So we're gonna see it coming out here, and now we're gonna see the Drake, and he's gonna be kicking himself a bit. But you have to take that risk because his current hand cannot be a turn 4 Giant. So we're gonna see the Drake come down. Drake versus Drake, different types of Drake, but got Drake versus Drake. And we're just going to see this silenced, I should imagine. He is 1 mana off, just completely blowing it out, which must suck to be in this position for Fire, at least. He could swipe it. I think the silence is just too much value here. Just silence it and go face. No point in really trading with it. If he Shadow Flames it, that's fine. Okay, at this point, I should imagine we're going to see tap Earthen Ring. He does have double Earthen Ring in his hand. It's a little hard to see because of the way the hand works. But probably going to see tap Earthen Ring and trade the 4-1 into the 4-4. Oh, Watcher. The interesting situation here is do you play the Watcher? By the looks of it, he is going to... He's debating a Watcher here because he has got 2. I mean, he's got 2 Watchers, so maybe it's better to save the Watchers. Yeah, he's going for the Earthen Ring. I think the reason for this is because next turn he has 6 mana, so you can go Watcher, Watcher, Taunt, or you can go Sunwalker. It gives him options. Oh, yeah, we're just going to see the... I think we're actually going to see him draw off this. Yeah, but that enables Mortal Coil. No, damaging is fine. Yeah. Because you don't want to enable Mortal Coil. That is correct. Damaging is absolutely fine here. You could get a little greedy with a draw there, but you've got enough. You got enough removal and such in your hand, especially to deal with taunts, as we might see a Giant taunted here. I think we're going to see a Sunwalker come down here. We could see a Sunwalker, or we could see a Giant and Ancient Watcher. I think Giant and Ancient Watcher is much more powerful. The Sunwalker can come down anytime. He's got 7 mana, so if he has Innervate combo, you're just dead. But then if he has Black Knight and you play Sunwalker, you're in even bigger trouble. So I think we're going to see the double Watcher Sunfury. Okay, as I said last turn, we're going to see the double Watcher Sunfury. Now, the reason he did it this way is because it's better against Black Knight than Sunwalker. But it's not as risky as the Giant play. So yeah, that's sort of a mix of both worlds, and I actually quite like that strategy. We are going to see the Drake and the Hero Power to kill one of these things. If he attacks at all. Yeah, he's going to try and clear these things. Now, he can use the Swipe or the Black Knight to kill the second one. So that's quite a big tempo swing. The Soulfire is huge here. I think playing the Giant and Soulfiring is actually a huge draw here. He's going to coil first, obviously, because it's a 4-1. Second coil is just funny. Now, I think Giant Soulfire is correct here. Sunwalker is also okay, but it's a little weak to Black Knight. Whereas this is a little weak to BGH, but you got double Molten in your hand, so those can come down even if this does get BGH'd. BGH being Big Game Hunter, obviously. So yeah, we're just gonna see the Giant Soulfire, gonna discard an Earthen Ring. Pretty good discard considering his hand. I think Mortal Coil was the worst card. Mortal Coil is the worst card in the hand. The rest of it is very good. Yes, we see this Giant. There's no answer for this Giant. He could have double swiped it, I guess, but then you have less stuff on the board than you did, and the Black Knight is a little dead in your hand. Now, because that just happened in terms of Black Knight, we're probably going to see the Sunwalker come out here and then just kill the 2-2 with the 8-8. Oh, the tap, the Faceless. Is the Faceless the correct play here? Let's see. If he has combo, you're one off dying. So I actually don't like that play at all. If he has combo, no matter what you kill, you're still one off death, which is a terrible, terrible situation to be in against a druid, and you don't have lethal combo in your hand at all. So I think the correct play is the Sunwalker and then kill the 2/2 with the 8/8 so that he can't swipe it. Yeah, I think I like that play. Playing the Sunwalker and then trading the 8/8 into the 2/2 makes it harder to kill the Sunwalker, and it means he can't just swipe the giant. Yep, looks like we've got the Sunwalker coming out here. Now, killing that was a mistake though, because now it's just going to get swiped. There's a swipe going to come out here, and then we're probably going to see a Wrath, and then he's just going to play the Harvest Golem. That was a big mistake. He should be very, very far ahead right now. We could have seen, on that turn, we could have seen double swipe, I guess. But, no, would double swipe even work? He'd have to double swipe the giant, and he'd still have Sunwalker. We could have seen Wrath. No, I don't think he had a way of clearing that. Yeah, I don't think he had a way of clearing that. I think that was just a major mistake. He'd be probably in a game-winning situation right now if he had killed the 2/2 instead. Actually, he would have had a 4/5 on the board, so he could have double swiped the. Yeah, he could have double swiped the giant and then killed the Sunwalker with a Black Knight, but then you could just Mortal Coil the Black Knight and there would be nothing on the board right now, instead of having to Siphon Soul a Harvest Golem. So yeah, I think that was a pretty big mistake. As for that turn though, Siphon Soul the Harvest Golem is weirdly enough the best play, because if you just played the giant, then you might just die. Because you got to keep in mind he would be on 18 life. So he was just going to die to combo. Now the Cairn is going to be huge here. The Cairn is one of the best cards in the matchup because it is almost impossible to remove. Efficiently, obviously, it's not impossible to remove. But it's impossible to remove efficiently for handlock almost. We're debating the Savage Roar play here. I actually, I'm the swipe. I think the Shapeshift and attack face is fine. He's debating lethal for next turn. That's what he was thinking about. The problem is if he Savage Roar's face, it's like an alarm bell system going off. The Sunwalker top deck is huge. He could actually go for Giant Faceless, but that's too risky. We're just going to see the Sunwalker come down. That is a huge, huge draw. And if you can't clear the Sunwalker in time, then we're just going to see the giants come back into this game. There are 3 giants in the hand and a faceless. He needs a taunt giver, and he's pretty much won the game if he gets a taunt giver. And by taunt giver I mean one of the Sun Furies or the Arcus. Now this is an interesting situation. How does he kill this? Because if he swipes face, he takes him into Molten Giant range, so he can't swipe face. We're actually going to see the Savage Roar. To be honest, I agree with the Savage Roar play here, because then you can play Yeti. No, I think Savage Roar is better. Yeah, Savage Roar is better actually. Savage Roar Yeti was far superior to that, because then you'd have a 4/5 on the board and the ability to have something with charge in your hand. I think using a Savage Roar was just correct there, because you are looking for double combo at this point if you're saving Savage Roars, which is Force of Nature and Innervate, and that's just not going to happen. So I think he changed his mind there at the end, but I actually do think the first play he came up with was correct. Now, for Jirachie, we do have a couple of interesting plays here. We could see a Big Game Hunter, Shadow Flame. We could also see a Ragnaros, Hellfire even. There's a lot of weird plays. I think he's just going to tap and hope for the best. And there's the Sun Fury. The Sun Fury could signal something huge here. The problem is that he doesn't really have a way of wiping this at all. How many taunts can he get up right now? It looks like he's going to go for the Hellfire and then go double Giant Sun Fury. This is an absolutely huge, huge turn here. Very smart to use the Hellfire on yourself to actually deal damage to yourself. We're going to see the double Giant taunt, and I think that is just the end of the game. I do not see a way back from this. barring Poison Seed. If he top decks Poison Seed, it's going to be quite funny. But besides Poison Seed, I think that is game over. And the top of the deck is Fon Combo. Now, Fon Combo will actually allow you to wipe this. That is a very, very fortunate top deck, although it does mean you're still far behind because there's a Ragnaros and another Giant in his hand. So I think at this point, Fire is going to lose this game. Now, the Yeti would have been far superior. Is he going to use his face? No. The Yeti would have been far superior because he wouldn't have died to the Hellfire. And also you would have Argent Commander in your hand for the second Savage Roar right now. Oh, the second Savage Roar would have been used, it wouldn't be dead in your hand. You'd have an Argent Commander instead of that. So I actually think the not playing the Yeti was a big, big mistake. Now, at this point, I think Jirachie is just going to win the game with his eyes closed, unless there's a second combo drawn here. Ultimately, there's nothing you can really... you can tap into Defender of Argus, I guess, but the 2 health might actually be relevant. Something else interesting about that Yeti, by the way, if he had Yeti, he would have won this game. Because he could have Fon Roared to clear. The Yeti would have hit him for 6, and then he would have had Swipe for lethal, because he had Argent Commander in his hand as well, so he would have had Swipe Argent for lethal. So if he had played the Yeti, he would have won this game. We could have seen Siphon Soul, but I don't think that would have mattered. No, he would have taken 6 and healed 3, he would still be dead. So yeah, that was a game-ending mistake from Fire there. I think he actually would have won this game if he had done the opposite. At this point, I think you're just Ancient of draw. Just draw as many cards as you can and hope for the best to try and get a big game hunter. That is the only way you're going to win this game. I think we're going to see him draw in. We're going to see him try and draw into BGH. That is the only way out of this situation, as far as I'm concerned. You can heal, but then you're just sort of signing. You're signing yourself to being dead. I think that's essentially what it is. The only top deck that really would have won him the game there would be Force of Nature. Actually, would Druid of the Claw do it? 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, Druid of the Claw would have also done it. But at this point, I do think Ancient of Lore draw is just how you're going to win this game. Yeah. At this point, it's like you're not really... This game is pretty much unwinnable from here. He's just hoping for combo, so he's trying to stall. We're just going to see the Siphon Soul here and the Defender, and then that's the end of the game. Yeah, Siphon Soul. I mean, we could see the Leroy going for face, but that's insane. Oh, Leroy faceless. What am I talking about? He has lethal. What am I talking about? Caster derp moment. Yeah, he's got Leroy faceless. That's 12 to the face. But anyway, even if he didn't have the lethal there, the game was over because you have Siphon Soul, Defender of Argus, and that even stops combo. So yeah, the game was over as soon as the Yeti didn't come down. So yeah, I mean, in that particular game, it was a pretty close game, actually. The opening hands for Fire were... I mean, opening hand for Fire was pretty good against what he had to play against, which was the Drake. The Azure Drake Crine on turn 4 was actually correct. It was just unfortunate. Because if it was a Giant, that would have been amazing. If it was a Drake, it would have been worse, but you can't really predict that. Unless he has both in his hand. If he has Giant and Drake, then the Drake was actually the correct play there, weirdly enough, over the Giant, which is very, very rare. But the actual game-ending turn was not playing the Yeti and playing the Argent instead. Now, just to explain this quickly, basically, if he'd Savage Roared there and played the Yeti, since he had enough mana to do so, I do believe. Yeah, he had enough mana to do so. Because he had 2 mana left over. So he had enough mana to do that. He could have gone Savage Roar, kill, and still have your Karen on the board with 1 life. Then you would play the Yeti. And keep in mind, Jirachie had to go Hellfire, Giant, Giant, Taunt. So the Hellfire wouldn't have killed anything. It would have had well, it would have killed the Karen, but it would have had a Bane on the board and a 4/2 Yeti. Then the Fondroar combo would have cleared... both Giants using the Yeti and all the trees. Then he would have taken 8 to the face. He would have gone down to Let's see, he would have taken 6 extra damage. So he would have gone down to what, 2 life? Yeah, 2 life. He would have had to Siphon Soul. Didn't have any way of taunting. He would have had Siphon Soul, and then he would have died to Argent Commander and Swipe. So yeah, the game actually, Fire would have won that game if he had played the Yeti and the Savage Roar that turn instead of playing the Argent Commander. And I think that was the major sort of turning point in that game, where it was very, very back and forth, and then we just see sort of Slam Double Molten and the actual answer off the top of the deck for the Double Molten. And at that point, that was actually the time where he could have won that game, and he just didn't quite see that outcome coming out of that particular sequence of plays. But anyway, so on to game 3. Now we have a bit of an interesting development here, which is that Fire actually brought out his own handlock build. So now we can compare a little bit of the differences. Now, this actual handlock build is very different. Well, I mean, about as different as handlock builds can get. So we've got only 2 AoEs, not 3. We've got double Nerubian Egg. We still have the 1 out. We've got still the 1 Power Overwhelming. That's all standard. Double Defender of Argus as opposed to the 1 from Jirachie's version. And no Ragnaros. So it's a very, very different list. I'm not really sure which one's favored in this situation, because one of them's better against AoEs and the eggs, and the other one is better late game in the Ragnaros. So we'll have to see who has the better version in the mirror. And it's going to be a very, very interesting game, simply because the decks are quite different, and we'll have to see how this goes. So, going on to the mulligans. Jirachie on the bottom. Now, Jirachie's just going to send all of this back apart from the Drake, and Fire's going to send all of this back instead of the Giant, because you just want your 4-drops in the mirror. Or in any game, really, you just want your 4-drops. So we're going to see the Hellfire sent back here, most definitely. It's actually keeping it. Interesting. Be interesting to see what the Hellfire does in this particular game, to see if that was worth the keep. Alright, so if we look at opening hands, Fire has got the Giant, and Jirachie has 4... Wait, is that 3 4-drops? Oh no, it was on the other top decks. Okay, so we've got double Giant Faceless for Fire, and then Jirachie has double Twilight. This is an interesting sequence of events. That is definitely... And the Giant, this is crazy. This is absolutely insane. Are we going to see the Coin Twilight Giant? Are we really going to see this? That's crazy. I don't think I've... And Sunwalker. This is insane. I don't think I've ever seen a handlock mirror with this many threats coming out this early. Turn 4 Giant in response, and we're going to see a Twilight Drake. I mean, he could also Soulfire this thing and then kill it, but then he risks... I mean, he could... He's risking quite a lot if he does that. He might discard a Giant or a Sunwalker. And if he... yeah, if he Soulfires... Actually, if you Soulfire here, you kind of hope it does discard the Giant, because then you can't play it anyway, because it'll go up to 7 cost. So... Oh, this is crazy. We're actually seeing Giant City over here. We're going to see a Giant out of Jirachie this turn as well. That is absolutely crazy. We're going to see a... Oh, the Big Game Hunter top deck is the best top deck he could have got. We're going to see Big Game Hunter Soulfire now. Definitely. Definitely Big Game Hunter Soulfire. And that is a huge top deck. That is literally the best card in the deck right now. Yeah, he can tap. He has enough mana. But that is literally the best card he could have got. Big Game Hunter and Soulfire is just an absolutely huge play. I think he was actually quite far behind, because the Giants would keep coming from Fire's end of things, as we do have another Giant. This is ridiculous. Are we going to see another Giant come out here with an Ancient Watcher? Is it worth taunting at this point? That's an interesting question, actually. Is it worth taunting? He does have all 3 Taunt Givers in his hand. So I think Giant and then Taunted Up is actually maybe correct. That's interesting. Normally you want to build your board and then put the taunt down when you actually need to, but in this particular situation you have double Sun Fury and Defender, so I actually do think that taunting up this Giant is correct. That's interesting. That's not normally something you think about. Now, we're starting the Brutal train again, where we actually do have the Siphon Soul for this Giant. I don't think I have seen... I have not... I don't think I've ever seen a handlock mirror with this many threats in the first couple turns. I mean, the turns really start on turn 4 in handlock mirrors. So from turn... Well, I mean, we had from turn 3 to 6 a threat every single turn. And we actually have a way of dealing with all of them from Jirachie to the point when he's going to come out on top in the end, which is just absolutely insane. Yeah, we're most definitely going to see the Siphon Soul here. That's one of the best Siphon Soul targets in the entire deck. And we're going to see the Twilight Drake trading because Iron Beak Owl is a thing. And also you just want to keep damage on the board. Oh, there's the Molten. The Molten is actually relevant here. We do have, we could see Molten come down and also Earthen Ring for us here. We could also see a Siphon Soul. The other options we have are Ancient Watcher, Sun Fury Protector with the Earthen Ring as well. Not in that order, obviously. I think the Hellfire into Giant, and then Earthen Ring, Sun Fury. Or just, you don't have enough mana for that. But anyway, next turn you can go Earthen Ring and Ancient Watcher, and then taunt them up. Do you have enough mana for that? How much mana is that? That's 9. No, you don't. You have 8 mana next turn. We're probably going to see tap as well then. Or maybe a reactive Siphon Soul with an Ancient Watcher. There's a couple turns. I mean, this is one of those situations where you can't really predict your turn before it happens, because in handlock mirror matches, the board changes so drastically every single time someone plays something. So it's very, very difficult to figure out what you're actually going to do. There's very, very little thinking that goes on your opponent's turn, which is actually quite unusual. Normally, there's tons of them. Most of the time, you actually do think about your turn before it even happens. Now, we do have an interesting turn of events here where we're probably going to see the Sunwalker and the Soulfire. The Hellfire doesn't do much here. Yeah, by the looks of it, we're going to see the Soulfire and the Sunwalker. You should definitely play Sunwalker first. Yeah, just checking. The arrow confused me a little bit there. So yeah, we've got the Soulfire coming out here, discarding Molten as it always does. And Fire has a perfect answer to this. The Siphon Soul, this is one of the better Siphon Soul targets in the deck because Siphon Soul, I mean, you can deal with Giants with BGH. The Sunwalker, not so much. I do know quite a few Warlock players who, and there's the sequencing mistake as well. I do know quite a few Warlock players who actually have like Sunwalker as the top of their Siphon Soul list is what they really, really, really want to Siphon Soul. I mean, it's a good Siphon Soul target. You get it off the board. Because it's so annoying to get rid of one of those things. Oh, there's the egg. Now, I think Earthen Ring Force here and Sunwalker is correct here. He could also go egg with Defender and Ancient Watcher. Has he got enough mana for that? That would be 8 mana. Yes, he does. So I think we might actually see the egg and the Earthen Ring and the Defender, or the egg and the Ancient Watcher. Yeah, egg and Ancient Watcher is a little stronger here. Earthen Ring, the problem with Earthen Ring is that you're depending on Mortal Coil. So if you depend on top decking Mortal Coil, it's not always the best thing. So we're definitely going to see the Ancient Watcher is going to do absolute work here. The Ragnaros is actually one of the better cards in the deck in this situation. The problem is with this Ragnaros is that if it hits the egg, it's disastrous. If this hits the egg, it's potentially game ending. So he needs to really, really think about this. I think you have to play it anyway. I don't think there's a choice here. You could also play Earthen Ring and Ancient Watcher and Defender, but that seems like you're just putting off the inevitable of having to play Ragnaros. Ragnaros, you've got a free turn here. You've already seen a Siphon Soul. You may not have any way of actually killing it. So I think we're just going to see the Ragnaros come out here and hope for the best. The YOLO Ragnaros in its entirety. Alright, so we're going to see the Hellfire Shadow Flame instead. He's going for clear instead of actually... Yeah, this is a very, very safe turn. The problem is that you give your opponent an initiative. And alright, the Mortal Coil off the top is just funny, because then he would have actually had the Mortal Coil for the Sunwalker. But anyway, the problem with this play is that while you keep the board clear, your opponent has initiative. So if you look at the board right now, he's in actually a worse position than he was last turn. He's in a worse position than he was last turn, which is actually impressive. It's impressive that he's in a worse position than he was, considering last turn was pretty rough. And this is one of the problems with playing reactively instead of proactively, is that sometimes this does happen. Now, he does have 10 mana this turn. The Ragnaros is not going to do as much as it would have done. So, I mean, we could see Rag and Ancient Watcher. There's also the Ancient Watcher Earthen Ring play, but then the Sunwalker is just going to wreck you. So we may have to see the Ragnaros. We may have to see the Ragnaros come out here. It's just all the other plays are way too risky. Or, I mean, no, they're not too risky. They're like feel bad turns. Ragnaros is the only one that actually has potential to do something well. And it hits the face. Now, this could be critical. And the Siphon Soul top deck. There's been so many good top decks in this particular game. Now, he's got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. We are going to see the Mortal Coil come out here first, obviously, to draw. Oh, double Soulfire. That could be very relevant later on in the game. Are we going to see the tap? Is he really going to be this risky? Oh, the Leroy. The Leroy. Next turn, we do have lethal, ladies and gentlemen. Next turn, we do have lethal. Now, what does Jirachie get off the top of the deck? This might actually change the game completely. It's a giant, but you can't play it. This is one of the problems with Mountain Giant late game, is that he can't actually play it right now. That has to be so disappointing. I think he has to play it anyway, because if he plays the Earthen Ring and the Taunt, he's just not getting anything out of it. So he actually has to play the Giant, and I do believe that is lethal. That is 10 plus, yeah, that's a simple lethal. So yeah, that was a pretty back and forth game. Very back and forth. I actually do not handlock mirrors is one of the hardest mirror matches to play. Wait, we're seeing a tap here. Wait, does he not realize he just has straight lead? Oh, did he think he had to like not discard Soulfire? Is that what happened there? Wait. You just have lethal. Wait, did he just realize that you didn't actually need the second Soulfire? That's funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah, he's just realized he didn't actually need the second Soulfire. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's a pretty funny ending to that game. But anyway, so that particular game was actually a good example of handlock mirror match. And what do I mean by that? I mean that handlock mirror matches are very, very easy to make mistakes in, and it's very, very difficult to play. And no one can tell you differently. Like, that matchup is one of the hardest to play in the entire of Hearthstone. There's so much decision making that goes on. You can actually go to turn timer almost every turn in the mirror. It's ridiculous. It's a very, very difficult matchup to play. But anyway, all three games this particular series were actually quite good. We got 3 reasonably close games. We got the Shaman and the Druid one was the most one-sided, and that wasn't even really one-sided. It was just because of the Cairn. But the other 2 games, we had a very, very close second game and a very close third game that just came down to top decks, really. And that's kind of how late game Hearthstone works in a nutshell. It really does come down to top decks and how you utilize them. But overall, it was a very, very interesting series to go over. And I really do hope that we can get the Gamers Connect guys on for some of the show match in the future, at least. But anyway, so final score 2-1 to Fire. He ended up winning the first and the third games, while Jirachie took the second one. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. As for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.